Good morning, everybody. We'll get things kicked off so we can stay on schedule. There's probably a lot of project managers in the room, so staying on schedule is very critical, as we all know that. So, wanted to welcome everybody here today. My name's Gerrie McKenzie. I'm the Technical Solutions Manager for the Automation Group at Gerrie Electric. So I've been there over 25 years now, so I recognize a lot of friendly faces in the room. Thanks for coming. We really appreciate you guys coming out today. We think we've got some very impactful, interesting topics. So I just wanted to take a few minutes, just kind of kick off the theme of the day, go over some logistics, and then I'll hand it over to our first speakers. So as everyone can see, the name of our event is Enhancing Operational Efficiencies. So I thought I'd kind of start with just posing the question, what is operational efficiency? And as you kind of research that topic, one of the things I thought was most impactful is what it's not. Quite often we talk about effectiveness, and efficiency is not equal to effectiveness. So I know within all our organizations we'll be asked, are we efficient? And a lot of our answers are, yes, we are. You know, we hit all our goals. We hit our production goals. We've hit our sales goals. Just because you're hitting those goals doesn't necessarily mean you're efficient. You're effective. You're doing the job. But are there efficiencies that can be realized while still being effective? So when you start to research definitions of operational efficiency, I grabbed this one from Wikipedia because I thought probably a lot of people in this room are controls engineers. Maybe by a show of hands, who in the room is involved with designing and working with controls? Right? Do we have any operations people in the room, operations managers? And excellent. And maybe some IT folks potentially? Excellent, thank you. You're not alone. Okay, nobody bash IT. Remove all IT jokes from the material. That's right. You're used to that, right? Yeah, well, I liked this definition because especially from a control engineer standpoint, it refers to inputs and outputs. And we can never go wrong talking about I/O in a room full of controls engineers. But essentially, it's efficiency is all about how can I achieve the same output by lowering my input, my effort. Or with the same input, how can I increase my output, right? So similar to that, some other definitions, you know, a comparison to what's actually produced or performed and achieved, increasing that with the same amount of labor, time, and money. Right, so I think we're all faced with that, doing more with less, or trying to do more with less, or as a minimum, try and do the same with less, right? I think we're all kind of faced with that. So we just kind of wanted to frame this morning by talking about operational efficiency. Often when we talk about automation, we're referring to machine efficiencies and you know, when people talk about what are the benefits of automation, you know, the obvious ones are increased performance, reduced downtime, all very valid. What we want to focus on today is kind of more of the human factor. You know, how can we improve efficiencies within our organization, whether that's operationally, from an engineering perspective, or from a maintenance perspective? So that's our focus for today. Again, I really want to look at what the human factor is. I think the themes of what you're going to hear today are going to range from, on the operational side, what can we do as engineers, as controls engineers, to better display information, whether that's alarms or graphics, to make an operator's life more efficient, right? So we're going to have some topics around that. Change management is a big topic. How are we managing changes in our organization? You know, that's been done very effectively to ineffectively or inefficiently. And then what can I do with what I already have? That's what we're looking at today. Is there's a lot of the information we're sharing today is really technology agnostic. It's not necessarily all new features of a product. There is some of that, but what can I do with what I have today? How can I get started with what I have today, and where can I take that? So our hope is that when you're walking out of here, at the end of the day, our goal is to say, hey, I've actually learned something. What enhancements can I start working on tomorrow? Was there something I was able to take away from today that I can take back to my facility? And is there some small changes that I can start making that are going to have an impact towards efficiencies? I thought it was really fitting to show this slide. You'll probably see in a lot of Rockwell literature and the rebranding of their website with some new logos. But I was at an event about a month and a half ago where the Rockwell CEO, Blake Moret, was speaking. And a lot of what he's driving when he talks about what his top priorities are is looking at the technology that they develop in a way that it's going to expand human possibility. Specifically, as we get into the age of analytics and artificial intelligence, it's how are people connecting with that technology? How is that technology working for us, just not working for the machine or the automation aspect that we're doing? So this is the agenda that we've got today, and I think you have that in front of your program. I just wanted to talk about the sessions just very briefly. So very shortly, I'm going to hand it over to Amy Carter and Jamie Blanchard, and they're going to take us through the journey to connected manufacturing. Start to show us what can we do for our operators and how can we display and share content and information in throughout our facilities. After which, we've got several breakout sessions. So clearly, you could see from the agendas, you're not able to attend all, but we're videotaping every single session. So if there's a session that you wanted to see both at 10 o'clock and clearly you can only attend one, within the next few weeks we'll have all of these sessions posted on our website for your viewing. But to kick off some of the breakouts, in Halton Room A at 10 o'clock, we've got operational efficiency using modern HMI practices. So that's going to really focus around the new ISA 101 standard, right? And how we can actually, as engineers, better design graphics for human reaction. Also going on at 10 o'clock is the spectrum of change management. So we can appreciate, we've got a wide variety of customers in the room, from OEMs, systems integrators, to end users with large facilities, small, medium. So the requirements for change management really differ depending on the size of your systems. So we kind of want to step you through what the spectrum is of techniques of managing those changes. Scalable approaches to reporting systems. So again, very similar. We all have a requirement to report data. My requirements as a small OEM might greatly differ if I'm running a municipal water treatment facility and I'm reporting to the MOE. After that, when we move into the 11 to 12 timeframe, we're going to have effective alarm management. So again, around the ISA 18.2 study or standard, how are we utilizing alarms or misusing alarms, causing issues with for our operators? System modernization, so that's a nice topic we're going to have co-presented by one of the folks from our Gerrie process group and one of our customers, and kind of share a journey of the difference between migration and modernization and some approaches and benefits they realized. And then we're going to talk about driving consistency with standardization for libraries. So from an engineering standpoint, how can I realize efficiencies by utilizing libraries and reuse of code? After that, we're going to come back into this room and we're going to have lunch. And then just after lunch, we're going to have what we're calling our operation, efficiency, and action. And that's where we're going to have a panel of our customers up here. And we're going to do some Q&A. I'm going to step them through some questions. They're going to share some stories of basically all the topics that we're talking here. The group of our customers have touched on and implemented to a certain degree. So they wanted to share those stories with the folks here. And then we'll open that up for Q&A. Okay. I just wanted to introduce, we've got several speakers. I'm not going to go through all of them. We have a full itinerary in front of you. But I just wanted to recognize a couple of the speakers that have traveled from the U.S. to support us. So Mr. Jamie Blanchard is the Regional Sales Manager for Rockwell Automation for the Thin Manager product. So Jamie's been working with Thin Manager for about 20 years, and he's deployed that across multiple different industries. So we're really excited to have him up here. As well, we've got Jason Wright, who's the Visualization Business Manager for Rockwell. So the Product Manager for FactoryTalk View and the associated visualization products. He's also a member of his local ISA chapter and heavily involved in some of the ISA standards. So we're really excited to have him come up here and share some of those experiences. And then I just wanted to quickly introduce our customer panel. So we've got Mr. Robert Puesca from the Dofasco Utilities Group. We've got Mike Szabo from ArcelorMittal Dofasco as well from their iron division. Mr. Sarteep Kake from Gaylee Foods. And Mr. Mark Presti from NLS Engineering. See, these are the folks that are going to join us after lunch and share some stories. So we're really excited about this, the opportunity to share this with you guys. Wouldn't be a seminar if we didn't have a giveaway or a draw prize. So our marketing department put a kind of a nice gift pack together. I think you saw you can put your ballots in at the front check-in. So it's kind of a Lutron home automation lighting system coupled with a Google Home that you can pair to. And Melanie, our marketing manager, thought it would be nice if there was a gift certificate for some food, so you can enjoy a nice dinner the first time you're enjoying your Google Home and your automated lighting. So we think that's a nice prize for the afternoon. And you have to be here to get the prize, sorry. What I want to do now is I want to introduce and hand it over to Mrs. Amy Carter, who's our automation and software product manager at Gerrie Electric, and Mr. Jamie Blanchard from Rockwell Automation.
Thank you.
All right, let's make sure this works. All right, you're good, Jamie?
Can you hear me?
Hey! All right, so we wanted to talk to you guys about the journey to connected manufacturing. We're not going to be so much talking about product here. We want to show you our vision of the control room of the future, about the plant floor of the future. Everyone's heard the term, connected enterprise, industry 4.0, IoT, all of these buzzwords. We're going to show you how all of this fits together and why we really need to be moving towards that. So when I was putting these slides together, don't worry, there's not a lot, there's 4. I'm a big believer in minimalism here. I went on Stats Canada's website and I wanted to look at what our workforce looks like today. Because we all know our workforce is changing. When we look around the room here, we've got some people that are older, some people are younger, some people are planning to leave the workforce, and some people are just starting their careers, right? And we might not realize the scope of that and where people really are in terms of numbers. So when I look at this, we have 7.5 million Canadians, or 23% of our population, that have entered the workforce since the internet's been created, right? So I put after the internet. So 23% of our population, we've got some of our younger Gerrie employees here, right? And you have younger people in your organization that can attest to this. They've always been able to Google things. Right? Everyone's always been able to look things up. You don't have to have, a pocket note or, worksheets tucked in your pocket to be able to find things. You can quickly Google it. When was the last time you had to go to your shelf and pull out a bookshelf, pull out a book, right, and read through a manual? We have an entire generation of people coming into the workforce that are used to instantaneous information, right? We have people that have never had to memorize phone numbers. Right? And that's not a bad thing, right? I'm going to use the word millennial today, and I don't want it to be in a negative connotation, right? Sometimes that gets thrown around as, there's terrible millennials out there and they're destroying things. It's not. It's just a generation of people that learn differently, digest information differently. And currently, that makes up 23% of our workforce, okay? When we look at this, we have around 22% of the Canadian workforce, right? And I took this as not the Canadian population, the workforce itself, that entered the workforce before the internet was really mainstream, right? So people that can open a manual, read a table of contents and flip to the pages. You're not used to going into a PDF, clicking on the table of contents and have the information brought to you. Right? So there's a generation kind of in the middle there that has adopted technology, welcomes it. For example, I'm in this generation, I have my smartphone on me all the time and I get push notifications when someone, likes something on LinkedIn or comments, right? So there's a generation of people that are kind of straddling the center line here. Everyone's really adopted the internet, likes technology and utilizes it. And then we have roughly 30% of our Canadian workforce is getting ready to retire, right? And when you see that, it's 30%. That's a huge number, right? These are people that are getting ready to retire. There's an exit plan in place. Maybe they don't want to leave the workforce entirely, maybe work part-time. But let's talk about, any integrators here or end customers, legacy systems, right? We have people that aren't being taught DeviceNet in school, not being taught ControlNet, Data Highway Plus, Remote IO, all of these things. There's about 30% of the population that supports these systems right now. And, what's going to happen 10 years from now, right? So we're going to kind of look at the workforce today and where we see it going.
So I don't know to be offended by the fact that I have to talk about the people that are retiring, but I guess that's appropriate considering the age difference between Amy and I. So I don't want to put anybody in the spot, but if you anticipate that you're going to retire within the next 5 years, please raise your hand. I'm not retiring in 5 years, by the way. I have 4 kids. Okay, so I'd say, how many is that, about 8 or 9? 10? Come on. Again, just maybe 10. How many are going to retire within the next 10 years? You, the 5-year-olds, also raise your hand. So I'm not doing math right now, but I don't know if that's 30% that's in the room, but I'd say it's fairly accurate. As Gerrie said, I've been in this industry for what I would now consider the OT industry for the better part of 20 years. I've done hundreds of these events. So if I look out into the crowd, the demographics are the same at almost every event I go, whether it's in Dallas, Texas, it's Alberta, Canada, Calgary, or wherever you want to be. It's very similar. You have an aging population. So that sounds horrible, right? We're all aging. We're all going to eventually plats, but that's another story. So of those 30% that are retiring, we look at what is that, again, I'm going to generalize here. So for those that are going to retire in the next 5 years, they say, that's not me, Jamie's lying. That's not how I do it. But generally speaking, we came up in the industry, as Amy was talking about, where heck, when I first got into the industry as an application engineer, I walked into the office for the first time and I'm like, look at all those books. They were collecting dust. And my manager at the time was like, Jamie, don't touch them. We need those. What if I did to troubleshoot? So those in that industry, and when I first got into this industry, that was very common. And it's common today where I'm going to have books and folders. My old manager, when I got into sales, he had folders worth of information. He would print emails to go back to. Does anybody still do that? Print emails? Okay. So there you go. Thank you. So that is the kind of the population that we have today. Oh, there we go. We'll stick on that slide. The population today. So that's kind of where you look at things. A lot of the people that we have that are in the aging workforce they have a lot of information about the process. How are things done? You retain that information. One of my customers, when I first got into this business, it was a chemical manufacturer. I walked into the plant and he's like, so you want to see a tour? I'm like, sure. That's why I got into this industry. I want to see things. It's cool. So he's like, let me take you up to the process area. I'm like, what the heck is that? He's like, it's a drum roll sequencer. Anybody know what a drum roll sequencer is? Oh, yeah. I'm like, so what happens if this thing breaks? Who knows how to fix it? It's Fred. How old's Fred? He's ready to retire. What are you going to do? We're going to try to keep him around as long as we can. So that's true if you fast forward 20 years to our automation with PLCs and HMIs. Those Freds, there's a lot of Freds out there that they retain that information, right? It's the way that it is. It's less likely, again, generally speaking, those in that aging population that are ready to retire, I'll stop using that aging population, okay? Those that are ready to retire are less likely to take advantage of technology. That's just not how we do it, Jamie. We're different. We do it this way. Well, go ahead, keep on saying that and see if you're still in business in 5 to 10 years. So that is a challenge. If I go to any of my customers and ask them, what are the biggest challenges you have? It's not necessarily process control, it's not quality, it's HR, people. I can't find engineers, I can't find operators, I can't find the people to do the job. Now we have 30% of that population of our workforce is departing. What do we do as an organization to do that better? So we need to take that information that's in those brains, we need those Freds, we need to transfer Fred's information to some type of digital format, some way to actually see that information. And that's where I'm going to hand it over to Amy to get into the next part.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. You know what Jamie was saying: digitizing this information, getting it to as many people as we can when you need it at the right time. I mean, if you take a look at the chart here, this is how people react with mobile applications, social media, and network storage. For example, today, if you notice a trend when we're looking at the never, which is that light blue line on the bottom there, that's around 30% for each one of those, right? So what's going to happen in 10 years' time when the workforce, that 30% that's about to retire, we're going to see that increase, right? When I was doing research for this and putting these slides together, there's actually a survey done, and there was a blanket statement that about 60% of millennials in the workforce prefer to do everything on their own phone because they've got better technology than the workplace has. They'd rather use their own smartphone than use whatever computer or whatever devices are there, right? And I don't think anyone in here would dispute that when you're dealing with, younger people in the workforce. So when we talk about in 10 years' time, so remember there were those three numbers there. 23% of people have been in the workforce after the internet. 22% have been in the workforce, kind of that middle straddling generation. 10 years' time, when that 30% retires, our workforce will be made up pretty much 60%, so 2/3 of our Canadian workforce will have always had technology. Will have always had a smartphone on them. Will have always been able to Google, Wikipedia, look things up at any point in time. Right? So that instantaneous access to information, those push notifications, right? Everyone remembers back in the day with your email, you'd have to click send and receive every so often and watch that bar fill up to check if you had new email. You don't now, right? Your computer lets you know, your phone lets you know, every other device you have. I mean, I think at home we have like 17 devices that all bing back and forth whenever there's some kind of notification. Right? We have people that don't want to go looking for problems on the plant floor. They don't want to do, figure out that preventative maintenance ahead of time. They want the plant floor to let them know when there's a problem. You expect a bing notification on your phone when there's some area of the plant you should go look at, right? And the one thing I want to talk about here is, again, sometimes the term millennial can seem, I've heard the word entitled and things like that. I like to use the word expectations. There are expectations of these people in the workforce that it should be there. Why not? If my phone can give me a notification when someone likes my picture of a cat, or if someone, posts a new video that I like, why can't it tell me that line 1 is down? Why can't it tell me that there's a drive about to fault on line 2? Why can't that happen? Why do I have to bring a laptop or a desktop computer on a little cart, a kilometer to the other end of the plant to troubleshoot a problem? You shouldn't have to. The expectation is that this stuff is already there. And in 10 years' time, we'll have a good chunk of the population that, is looking for that information. And I like this infographic here. 70% of the millennial generation sees there's going to be a big change with Industry 4.0. This connected enterprise, this connected manufacturing. They see this change and they're ready for it. They're welcoming it. But less than half of them think they have the skills necessary to do anything with it. And where do they think this information is coming from? Who do they think is going to give them this knowledge? It's not school, right? It's you guys. It's the employers. They're expecting to come into the industry and have this stuff there and learn about it, right? They're expecting all of this to be done. So it's expectations of the next generation that's coming in as opposed to keeping alive that old system that, I use the Fonzie jukebox analogy. You just hit it right here and it works and starts working again, right? There's one guy, as you said, Fred, that can keep that up and running, and that's not going to be the case in a few years' time.
All right, so it's not all dire. It's not all sad. Don't worry about it. We have 5 to 10 years, right? So let's talk about what can we do. And one of the key points that when I was hearing Gerrie talk was don't have to be giant steps, but just look at small steps. How can I improve what I have today in small steps? So what we're going to get into, don't think, oh my gosh, I got to put in a new wireless infrastructure. I got to do this and that. Look for areas of opportunity where it would make sense for your organization to start taking advantage of what we now call Industry 4.0. So for instance, let's look at, again, I don't have any bullet points here, but let's talk about some of those things. Let's go back to Fred. Let's take Fred's information, his knowledge, and somehow digitize it. Let's get that into standard operating procedures. Let's write it down. Look at all those, you have all those bookcases full of information. Let's digitize it. Think of it as creating your internal knowledge base. Who here uses a knowledge base from the Rockwell website to troubleshoot? All right, is it helpful? Yeah, right? It's self-help. That's what in our world today, who likes to call up customer support to make reservations or do something? No, I don't. Nobody. I was like, oh, I got to talk to a person. It's horrible. I don't want to talk to a person. I just want to do it. I want to self-help. We're a self-help industry. Our millennials are self-help. That's what they like. So we got to digitize that information, make it searchable so I can see that information. Again, don't look at it and say, I've got an office, I got a library here, I've got to digitize all that. No. What are the most important, what's the most important information that you need, that you believe at this time is the most important to digitize, so our knowledge workers can actually have access to that really quick. So that's just one idea. Let's look at the connected enterprise. Today, we're connecting our machines. There's the days of islands of automation. Again, 20 years ago, it was not unusual to have islands of automation. Now, customers say to me, Jamie, I can't do that. I can't connect that. I've got network vulnerabilities. I've got this, that, and the other thing. Those are all excuses. The days of me saying, I'm different, I'm special, are over. You're not different. You're not special. I don't say that in a mean fashion. I mean it. We need to stay competitive. We got to actually connect the machines. We got to actually take that information. Because with the idea that we have a challenge with human resources, we need to make our users more effective. They need to actually be more efficient. I can't, was it effective does not equal efficiency? What? But we need to make them more effective users. So the ability for somebody to troubleshoot a machine, they don't have to go hunt for this information in a book. They can just go to a tablet or whatever device they have in front of them and search for a key term, that internal knowledge base, to help troubleshoot, make them more efficient. I was with a customer a couple months ago, and he said, Jamie, we have a requisition for 6 engineers. We can't find anybody. So his job right now is efficiency. How can I make what I have, take the users that I have, the knowledge workers, and make them more efficient? So connect all the machines. We're going to talk about that a little bit, is artificial intelligence. Now the idea of that again, we're not going to replace you. We can't replace you. We can't even find enough of you out here, right? But we're going to take advantage of artificial intelligence to do that troubleshooting. So our artificial intelligence will say, hey, this thing is going to break. You might want to get to it pretty darn quick. So we want to do predictive maintenance. We want to take advantage of that technology. We want to digitize it. We want to actually have the ability to have common workplaces. I like having, I think we all do, right? We have our way of doing things. I want to see it the way I like to see it because it's more efficient. So we want to have a common user interface. We'll get into how we share that as well. The idea now of, let's look at who here that's going to retire within the next 5 to 10 years would like to stay in the workforce, but actually not 40 hours a week, maybe 10, 20, 30. I would like to do that. I don't want to have to work 40 hours a week, 60, 70 hours that I work now with all the traveling that I do, but the ability to possibly work remotely. So with the connected enterprise, now we can have these knowledge workers, these Freds, that do not have to come into the factory or the plant to actually help me troubleshoot. We can call up Fred or Jack, and Jack say, hey, Jack, I'm having some challenges here. Well, Jack does not have to come. He doesn't have to put on his steel-toe boots and his hard hat and get ready. He can just sip his cup and remotely log into the facility, and he can take his knowledge and help them remotely. So imagine sitting on a beach somewhere. You get a phone call. Fred or Jack's like, hey, Jack, I'm here at the plant. Jack's 3,000 miles away, or however much that is in kilometers. I don't know. I don't know about how far that is. Wouldn't that be great if he or she could actually remotely troubleshoot? And that's really what we need to find, different ways of doing things, different ways of looking at things. So that is a good way to think about things. I think that's good, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we're going to move into a bit of a demo. Don't worry that you can't see this screen. We're just using it for a little bit. Jamie and I are going to talk about, again, the modern control room. So for example, in this case, I'm an operator, right? I'm sitting in my control room environment. Those are the screens I need to see to do my job on a daily basis, right? I've got set up 3 screens here. They're very efficient HMIs. They're going to let me know instantaneously if I've got a problem. I can see that. And they'll talk about that a bit in the Modern HMI Practices seminar about this ISA standard and how this helps you be a lot more efficient in terms of monitoring, doing your job, and everything else. So in this scenario, I'm in my control room. I can see my entire facility. I can see at a glance if there's any problems, right? But I've had my thin client here. Let's say it's been there for 10 years, so I've got a problem, and I want a bigger screen because you know what? I want higher resolution. I want to see more. So I'm going to call Jamie. Jamie works in our maintenance department, and he's going to swap that out for me. right? Because you know what? Hasn't failed. It's been 10 years, but just preventative maintenance. I'm doing my due diligence. I'm going to have him change that out.
All right, so the good news is we've centralized all of our applications on a server, the server you see in the middle. So right now, this Think client really is not hosting any content or information. So everything you see here is being centralized, what we like to call our internal cloud of information. You know how we have the knowledge base of your facility? Think of this server and all the connected applications as internal cloud. So since it is an internal cloud, it gives me a lot more flexibility. And since we are using Think clients, the days of me actually having to go get a PC, load the operating system, load the applications, load the licensing, do patch fixing, virus protection are over, because I'm using a simple, easy to use, very secure, very reliable Think client. So now that used to take me 8 hours to replace, now it can take me minutes, which makes me a more efficient person. So now I can do more with less. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this Think client. I just went out to, this is tough to do. Can I duct tape this to my body here? So what I can do is just actually go to the stores, get a spare, and with minimal configuration, I can just go ahead and I'll go out to the plant floor. I don't even have to have any knowledge of this. I'm just going to go ahead and replace this Think client. So anybody that can disconnect and replace cables can replace a Think client.
And what's really nice is this is, say, a spare we've had in the office. This spare can be used throughout the facility because, as he said, there's nothing on it. There's no configuration. There's no installing software. There's no work. All he's going to do is swap over my cables and power it up. And my control room's back where it is. And actually, let me give you this cable because I wanted a bigger monitor.
All right.
So what's going to happen is he's just going to put that and it'll show up on the projector and you'll be able to see the modern control room a lot more clearly.
All right, to make sure I can put all these back together. Again, anybody that has the ability to disconnect and reconnect cables can replace the Think client. All right, I think we're good.
Just need power.
Oh, that wouldn't make sense. I'm Fred. Fred doesn't know how to put in power. Thank you. I completely agree with you. I've only done that 1,000 times, and probably 10% of the time I forget to plug it in.
We always talk about our first steps of troubleshooting, and the first thing is it powered on. So we can help you with that, Jamie.
All right, so if you focus on the screens, what's happening is the Think client is powering up, it's booting up, it's a Thim Manager ready Think client, and it's going to go to our Thim Manager server, and it's going to download our firmware. That firmware is really what makes this, what used to be a zero client, a very intelligent device. Unlike me. That's not right. Self-deprecating, it's important. What I hear from many customers is, how long does it take to replace a PC? Anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. A couple of weeks ago, I was with a prospective customer. He said 48 hours. I was like, not 48? He's like, no, 4 to 8. So I'm going to go in, and I have a lot of what we do is we have a little label in here that says I'm in line 1. So that's the terminal that failed. Enter. Since this is the same model, make and model, Thim Manager is not going to query me any longer. It's just going to say, hey, I've replaced this Think client with this new Think client with this unique MAC address. Download the rest of the firmware, download the configuration of that terminal, and I'm going to be up and running in minutes. So if you look at the mean time to repair, it's dramatically less than a PC. Not to mention, now the fact is I don't have to worry about maintaining those PCs. I don't have to do patch fixes, virus protection. I don't do upgrades. I can quickly replace this and get on to more productive work. I don't have to just troubleshoot and play with the computer. So there you go. I think Amy's up.
Just click.
Oh.
All right, so I'm going to talk about my control room again. Now everyone should be able to see this, right? So we can see we've got 3 different unique HMIs. Jamie's clicking on it. We can actually interact with all 3 of these HMIs from this one screen. We don't have to go into, 5 different systems. I've got the one camera set up and the 3 HMIs. That doesn't have to be a camera, doesn't have to be an HMI. It can be any kind of application that anyone uses day to day. It could be Logix. It could be any other kind of design software. It could be any other, internet-based anything. Anything that runs on Windows Server. So anything Windows-based applications we can have in our control room. So if you have a maintenance system that's important to you that you need to have open all the time to track work orders, if you want to monitor your HMI and cameras throughout the facility, we can do that. So in my modern control room, this is what is important to me, right? And because we've set this all up, everything at a glance, if I'm just going to simulate an error or something that's happened in my system, I've got a nice little yellow caution sign there on the bottom right. I can see there's a problem. So I can see that there's a network error detected, and I can troubleshoot this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call Jamie and say I've got a problem.
All right, so I'm part of the maintenance team. I'm kind of a hybrid of IT and OT. We're starting to see a lot of that. And Amy calls me in because I have knowledge of this possible situation. But as Amy was saying earlier, I don't want to have to lug around a laptop. I want to have a very common user experience wherever I go, whether I'm on my mobile device, whether I'm at a tethered terminal like this, tethered meaning it's attached to the network, it's attached to the monitor. I want to be able to have that information. I don't want to have to go to my office to grab that laptop, power it on. I want to be able to just walk up to any terminal that I have access to, log in, whether it be an HID badge, biometrics, thumbprint, facial recognition, to log me into that terminal so I can get that information, so I can do my job quickly. I want to be able to, again, we got the goal. Again, the goal here is human resources. How can I do more with less? Less meaning less time. I've got a lot of crap to do. I need to do it quickly. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to walk up to that terminal. Oops.
Plug it in.
See, that might be the, there we go. I did not plug it in all the way. So I'm going to walk up to this terminal, and attached to that terminal is an HID badge reader. So I'm going to badge in with my credentials. And if you see up here, what's going to happen is now that Think Client, which typically had those 4 pieces of content, we're going to add content to that terminal. Content that I need to do my job more effectively. So I'm not standing in front of the screen. So now, as the maintenance person, I have access to content that was not originally there. It's in my internal cloud of information, but it's important to me to do my job. So it was a network issue, so I want to have access to my static switch. What are those buttons for? What lights are going off that will help me troubleshoot? So now I digitize that information. It's back on my server. Again, my internal cloud of information. Now I can walk up to any terminal and do my job effectively. I can walk around. So this is a full PDF. I can, do keyword search and find that information quickly. I can look at my network layout. This is where having a microphone in one hand and this touchpad is really fun. So I have my network layout. Again, that information is with me at seconds. I don't have to go hunt and find it. We want to actually do a meantime repair. Time is very valuable from a production standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. If I want to go back and still see that control room layout, I want to still see the HMI screens. They're still there. So I've added content based on my permissions. Who am I? What are my responsibilities? So we could actually have groups of people, maintenance, operations, QC, you name it. So we can actually say these individuals will have content that they need to do their job and do it effectively. One of my large customers, their goal right now is to reduce their mean time to repair. Today it takes them up to 2 to 3 minutes to open up a laptop, turn it on, and launch Logix. Does anybody agree with that? Using our technology, they're down to get it down to seconds. With an iPad, they can actually launch it, log in, and have Logix within seconds. So again, they can quickly repair, reduce their mean time to repair. So I'm finished. I badge out, I log off, that information is taken away because the operator doesn't necessarily need that information. I could walk to another terminal and actually see that same information if I'd like.
Yeah, that's what's really nice is the integration with, like, for example, maintenance work order systems. If you want to make notes on a repair you've done to a machine, you badge in with your card, make your changes, make your notes, and then leave, right? You don't have to carry around a clipboard with notes to leave for the next shift or something else, right? So the next thing we're going to do is Jamie's found that issue. He looked at the network drawings and found where the problem is, so he's going to dispatch me. I'm going to go to the plant floor to take a look at it. So we're just going to swap back over my computer onto the projector here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the plant floor with a tablet, and I'm going to actually do the troubleshooting right up here.
Yep, got it. Get back here. There.
So I'll wait for him to plug that in. And this comes back to when we have a generation of people, again, where they may have better technology than the plant floor has. This is just a commercial, you know, a standard iPad. This isn't something special. This is an industrial product. This is an off-the-shelf iPad device, right? I could be using an Android tablet as well, or a Surface PC, or anything else like that, and I'll be able to...
You know how to get it over from the projector? See, IT, sales.
There you go. So what he's seeing now is the tablet I'm using. You can see it go back and forth, right? So I'm just casting my screen here to the screen up there. And sorry, I'm going to walk around. Hopefully it doesn't make anyone uncomfortable. But I just want to show you the fact that I'm connected wirelessly to our server over there, and I can access my content from wherever I am within the facility. Right? So one of the neat things I like about this is the ability to do QR codes. Right? The ability to do location-based files. So for example, as Jamie said, if you digitize some of this information, if you digitize some of, you know, the manuals for your plant, or, you know, if he sent me, oh, can you walk out there and look at the network while I'm walking? Can I get you to hold this for me? Thanks. I'm just going to scan this QR code. And while I'm walking around, you can keep it if you want. I've got my network layout here, right? I've got access to a fully interactable PDF right here, right? And then when I get to the machine, if I want to take a look and do some more troubleshooting, so, you know, Jamie's dispatched me, I've taken a look at, for example, our static switch, and the lights are blinking like crazy. There's red, green, yellow, I don't know, whatever other colors of the rainbow there may be. I can put QR codes on all of my devices, and you can see my camera here as I'm getting in there. You know, there's a QR code kind of hidden in there. I can place them from within the panel, wherever I want, on the outside of the panel in the facility, and it's going to bring up that content for me. Oh, there's an error with, oh no, that's not an error, sorry. It's an error in the manual. So I have my PDF here, right? So for a mobile workforce to be able to get this content wherever you are, I now have my PDF. And you know what? Maybe I'm looking at the network layout and I'm taking a look at the blinking lights and it's telling me someone's plugged in a cable where they shouldn't have. So I can unplug it and see if I fixed the error, right? And if we were to look back at our HMI, we'll see that the error is gone, right? And you know what? While I'm here, there's also a blinking red light on the PLC. Actually, can you plug that thin client in there just so they can see the camera? There's a blinking red light on my PLC. If I want to troubleshoot that, I've also got a QR code that I've put on my PLC. And what that gives me is I now have the program for that PLC. I'm opening up Studio 5000. I'm opening up a session of just that, the program for it, right? So I can access the program, I can access Studio 5000, and I can fully interact with this, right? Yeah. I can go online with it, right? I wouldn't recommend something like this for trying to program an entire machine, right? It's a troubleshooting tool. If you want to figure out, you know, if you need to force a bit on, or if you want to figure out why something's on when it shouldn't be, this is fully interactable Studio 5000. I don't have the path set, but I could, you know, click here and go online or upload or download, right? Yeah.
So is that like a remote desktop connection to the server which has the software loaded on?
Yeah. So this is all using terminal services built into the Windows Server itself, right? So I can place these QR codes throughout my facility on any of my devices. So drives, if I want to pull up the binder, right? You know, we were talking about shelves of binders that you've got in your facility with manuals, maybe from a project and no one's updated them, right? You can sit those files on this server, put QR codes on every panel, every device, scan that, and instantaneously get your wiring diagrams, get the manuals for it, not have to hunt things. And again, when we're talking about working more efficiently, how many people have tried to find a manual online and find the right version for the right part number you have, right? You can go down a rabbit hole and spend, 2 hours online and not end up finding what you need, right? So to be able to have that information, everyone gets that together at the beginning of a project and it gets lost over time. To be able to store that centrally, digitize it, be able to have that access is fantastic, right? So let's say I'm still here and I'm having issues. I can call Jamie because you know what? Okay, I'm here, I'm looking at it, I'm not sure what I'm really looking at it, and I still need some help, right? So I can call into Jamie. He's retired now with those glasses. He's sitting on the beach, and I'm like, Jamie, I'm completely out of my element, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me out?
So this goes back to the idea that, again, we have our demographics, we have 30% of our workforce is retiring, and all that information. So let's take advantage of that information as we're commissioning projects, as we're troubleshooting, as we're training our new knowledge workers. Let's take advantage of this type of technology. So actually, maybe again, I might be in the facility. I've been, there's steel mills are humongous, right? They're just huge. There's gypsum facilities that are humongous. So if I don't have to walk out to that machine to help troubleshoot, if I can just sit in my office and see that information, I can help them remotely. That's going to save me a lot of time. It's going to save a lot of effort. It's going to actually make me more efficient, and it's going to actually help me do my job. So what I'm going to do is, using our technology here, sorry, this just happened like 2 weeks ago, and once you get used to them, it's hard to not use them. So So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to, I can actually highlight any of the terminals in my facility. So I highlighted one of our terminals, this think line over here, and I can see exactly what the operator sees. But that's not my goal today. My goal today is actually to help Amy and help her troubleshoot. So what I can do is I can even highlight that iPad that she's moseying around the facility, and I can see exactly what she has. So if she has a problem, she calls me up and says, hey, Jamie, you've been here for a long time, and I might be smarter than you, but you have a little more understanding of this facility. Can you help me troubleshoot? So I don't have to go out there. I can actually just say, let me just go ahead and show me what you're looking at, Amy.
I'm going to scan something else just to pop that up.
Okay. So I can see that Amy's now scanned a QR code. And she's going to bring additional content to her terminal. So not only is she seeing that content, me, as one of her coworkers, I actually can see it as well. So we can help troubleshoot. You look at this technology as just a way, again, to eliminate those additional bodies. Using this type of technology, you can actually have it where you don't have to have an operator saying, all right, I'm going to go ahead and toggle that valve or stop and start that. I can actually, from this user interface, I can interface with that application.
Has anyone tried to troubleshoot something remotely with someone over the phone? Okay, that green thingy's on and it's blinking. Okay, now push that red one. Okay, now do that one, right? In this case, every problem I have, hey, Jamie, I think it's this issue, right? He can see exactly what I'm doing.
So why don't you go back over to Logix for me so I can see what's going on with Logix. Again, I don't have Logix here, but I can actually see her screen.
And before, what we were doing was using a separate application. I was just casting my tablet to the screen, so we were just mimicking it. This is using the Thin Manager software, and Jamie's able to fully interact. Before, that was a read-only session, and that was only because I'm on the wireless access point where he is. Right now, I could be anywhere within the facility, and as long as he's on the same network, he can get in here.
Correct. So look at this as a great tool for, again, remotely troubleshooting. So Jack can be sitting on the beach or camping in the middle of nowhere as long as he has a connection, and he can actually do his job. So we look at this as a way for not only our end users, but maybe an OEM. If you just receive the machine, instead of having to have that engineer fly 1,000 miles to your facility, maybe it's a remote facility, you can actually have them say, no, I can do this remotely. It's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to save you a lot of time. It could be days. It could be hours or days of information. So again, I could be inside my facility helping troubleshoot remotely. or I could be outside of the facility. The key point of this is we can't keep on saying we can't connect it. It's not safe. There's a lot of great tools. I know Gerrie Automation has a lot of great tools to secure your networks, to secure access to those servers in your facility. We need to take advantage of this technology to do that. And one of those ways, again, is remotely being able to troubleshoot things, remotely be able to get things done quickly.
Yeah, I mean that's it. This kind of ties into all of the other sessions when we're talking about the efficient HMIs, being able to see the entire facility at a glance and being able to see quickly when there's an issue. When we're talking about reporting requirements, we can show reports on these screens, right? We can show whatever content we want that's important to the user. When Jamie scanned himself in, he got his stuff. I don't care about it. I'm the control room operator. What do I care about reports and how much money we've made or lost today? It's not important to me, but it's important to him, and he has access to it wherever he is. Right? And I'm really excited for everyone to see our customer panel this afternoon because everyone's implemented some of these strategies and they'll be able to talk about it from a real world experience other than people, showing it to you up here.
Is there any questions of what do we have, about 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So we have about 5 minutes. Is there any questions on what we did? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the QR code.
Mm-hmm.
They can stick the QR code to any panel in the plant.
Yep.
Who's going to link the data between the QR code and the relevant data?
So that's all done in this software. There's a package called Relevance built into the software, and all you're going to do is go online. There's lots of free QR code generators out there, and I just typed in whatever code. So for example, the code I gave you there says network layout at the bottom. That's all that QR code says. So within the software, you say when someone scans a QR code that says network layout, give them the network layout drawing. When someone scans a QR code that says, line 1 electrical drawings, give them the line 1 electrical drawings. Jamie's just brought it all up here.
So the tool we're using is Theme Manager. Again, that's just one of the tools we're going to talk about today. But Theme Manager is our tool that we're using to just generate those QR codes. And then you associate that QR code or quick response code to a location or an asset. And then once you've created that asset, you think of it as an asset tag, that QR code, when you scan it, Theme Manager is going to know what asset that is that you're scanning, and then you as an administrator assign that content to that asset. But each user could have different types of content. So a quality person conceivably could scan that same QR code and get different information. Say you have a QR code on a controls cabinet, and maybe a maintenance person, when they scan that QR code, they're going to get logics. But if a quality person scans that QR code, it's actually going to think, hey, I know what machine you're on, bring up the SPC application or quality application for that machine that's controlling. So the QR code is just, think of it as a landmark, and then you associate content to the very individual users and what their requirements are. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Expanding on that a bit more, than where do you get that content from?
So all of this content is installed on the server itself, and we're using this software as a content delivery service. So if you wanted to show the display clients at all, Jamie, we're just creating a link, if you will, to, for example, Adobe PDF Reader with the file that someone wants to see when they scan that QR code.
So if your central location for that network layout, if that document gets changed,
It's changed everywhere, right? So that would be the idea. You would keep an updated copy of your network layout. As you make a change, you update that document. I mean, it could be a CAD drawing or something that you're sending out as well. I mean, I had full access to Studio 5000 on here, right? It could be CAD software, right? And I could change my document on here. I would save it in the server, and then it's updated for everyone to see. Right? When we talk about, there's a session on change management, and one of the things they're going to talk about is, changes and archiving. If you have a change management system, you would, save it as a different file name, rev it up, or you might have software to automatically do that for you, right? And when it detects a change, you can actually archive the old version as well.
So Theme Manager is the tool that we're using. Again, we're using off-the-shelf technology like Microsoft Remote Desktop Services, virtual desktops, common virtualization technologies like VMware, Citrix, or Microsoft. So Theme Manager is really just being utilized to connect to that content. And using our technology called AppLink, we're linking specifically to that application, like PDF viewer, and then the actual file location of that drawing that you're going to update. Once you update it at that central location, anybody that has access to it will see the most current version of that. It's not stagnant sitting somewhere on a shelf. So again, when I said earlier, it's not overwhelming. Look at it as areas of opportunities. Take steps to start digitizing what's important and doing the steps necessary. So there will be some upfront work, but that's what we need to do today to actually move forward with technologies. Do some of that upfront work today, and then slowly do it as we move along. Yes, I saw.
I think we have time for one more. Yeah. Sorry, I missed part of that.
Yeah, for example, one person, right? He needed access 20 those contents. So he needed 20 of QR code or only needed one. So
No, so the question was if someone wanted to access 20 different applications, they wouldn't have to scan 20 different QR codes. What you can do is that one QR code unlocks all of the content, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you would set the QR codes to show whatever you'd want to show. Actually, I could show you that as well. It's typical movements you're used to on a smartphone. If you have multiple screens, you pinch, and it brings up a carousel view, and you can swipe between the different contents you have and select it and maximize it and use that application. So if you wanted, your drawing set for a panel, you wanted access to Studio 5000 for the program, you wanted access to your HMI software, you wanted access to anything else, you can pull that content up with one scan.
it's like Windows 8 is kind of it's desktop there. You have to keep searching for 100 applications.
Yeah, so you would decide which applications you wanted to come up, right?
So I think we're done with questions, but are we going to keep this system up during lunch? So if there's this, I'm not sure what our...
We're going to tear this down, but
Okay.
both Jamie and I will be here all day. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us and grab us during lunch or during any other times, and we can
And
talk about that.
I know, Amy knows our product after just a year and 2 months better than I do, and I've been doing this for 20 years. She really, so if you want to see it in more detail, Amy and the group at Gerrie know our product very, very well. They're one of our top distributors in Canada, if not all of North America, from an APR perspective. So they do know our product. They have a lot of great customers, and we'll actually hear from those folks this afternoon. So
Yeah,
get to your breakouts.